I'm Bonnie Kemke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. I had recently committed myself to do a series of presentation on my triple T's. Now, what are my triple T's? Well, it's the tools, tips, and techniques that I use in my quilting environment. But today what I wanted to talk about was the most important machinery that you have in your studio, your body, and you need to maintain that. So let me go back into my history a little bit and explain to you where I came to begin a study of ergonomics. Ergonomics is the study of health and safety at the task environment. And we can't change our bodies. If you're 5'2", you're 5'2". If you weigh 160 pounds today, you weigh 160 pounds today. So if you have arthritis, you have arthritis. You have to respect that because you can't just make it go away. So let's forget about the machine for a moment. And as I said, let's go into my past. 40 years ago, I started working in the engineering field. I was a software systems engineer. So what that means is I write software, but I also design the systems that software will be on. I was the only female that many of my male counterparts had ever seen in the field. The work environment was set up for men. Within about 6 months, I started experiencing pains that I'd never experienced before. My neck and shoulders ached constantly. My hips and my back. I felt like I was 60 years old. Something is going on. So I go to the doctor and I start describing my symptoms and he says, sounds like you might have arthritis. So he sent me to an osteopath, and the osteopath and we had our first meeting and we're discussing my lifestyle and we continued discussing my work environment, And so he's asking me about my posture and how I sit at the equipment, and we're talking about it, and he's like, no, this is your problem. This is your problem right now. And he introduced me to a term, ergonomics. And he said, you're going to have to get yourself situated to where you're not damaging your body, because if you don't, in 10 years, 15 years, you may be so badly injured that you're on crutches, in a brace, in a wheelchair. You're on the fast track to some serious damage to your structure and your skeletal structure. But the work environment really didn't help me to address this. And that's because everything was set up for men. So it was at least 2 inches too tall or 4 inches too deep. So everything was wrong for me. So I had to find a way to adjust the environment as much as I could and to bring in things to assist me to make the environment better. And I bring that into my sewing experience. And so let me tell you what I discovered with my doctor and with research. And it's pretty widely known now, but I'm going to add some body twists to it. So typically, if you're sitting at a machine or you're sitting at a computer, any desk situation that you're sitting, your thighs should be parallel to the ground. But in addition to that, your thighs should be completely supported by your seat. And the seat should be long enough for you to have your thighs completely supported, but shallow enough to let you be able to get your back into the back of the seat. And as we discussed the back of the seat, you need lumbar support. If it's not built into the chair, then you need a small pillow that is maybe 2 inches thick and 4 inches deep to set that so that you have something to help you support that natural S curve that you should have in your spine. Your shoulders should sit almost directly above your hips. And at the small of your back, there should be a curve. just a curve that you can put your hand into, because your back should have a natural S curve to it. If you're sitting like this or standing like this, what you're doing is you're destroying your core. And as you destroy your core, you cause pain in your lower back and in your hips. So you want to have that natural S curve. Now we've discussed that your thighs should be parallel to the floor and completely supported by the chair, but your knees and the bend of your hip should be at right angles. So you should have your back coming down, your thighs going across, and your calves going down, and your calves should be perpendicular to your thighs and to the floor, and your feet should rest flat. If you can't rest your feet flat, the chair is too high, but you also have to be able to take into consideration the desk that you're working at. If you cannot rest your feet on the ground, then get a small box, a book, something that you can set underneath your feet so that they can have support. Now, do they have to stay there at all times? No, but let's start there. I'm going to call this your neutral position. So your feet are flat, your calves are coming straight up from the floor, your knees bend at a right angle, and your thighs are parallel to the floor and perfectly seated in the seat of your chair. Your hips go straight up with that small S curve in your back, and your shoulders are relaxed and immediately above, almost directly above your hips, so that you've created this boxy frame. Now, we've got that situated. Your arms need to rest so that when you drop your arms down and you lift your forearms up, your forearms need to also be parallel to the ground, and your wrist should not be hyperflexed or supined. It should be where your wrist is pretty well relaxed. I'm going to tell you about this because a lot of people have this issue. If your wrist is not relaxed, what you're doing is you're pinching the nerves in there, and you're going to cause damage to your nerves. It's also going to radiate into your shoulder. A lot of us have a tendency to hunch like this, especially when we're working on sewing or something. You want to try and maintain that, neutral but good posture, not this slumped posture. The slumped posture is going to cause you pain in your neck, pain in your shoulders. So we've kind of got into that. The other thing to consider is that when you're addressing your machine and you reach out to adjust your bobbin or to adjust, hit the knobs, they should go you should have to go no higher than a direct line from your shoulder. If you're lifting up like this, again, you're starting to stretch this here abnormally, and as you do that frequently, what happens is you're going to pinch a nerve in your shoulder, and that has happened to me. And if you pinch it, you may not be able to move your arm. What I want to do is go ahead and put you on pause, and I'm going to demonstrate here at my Destiny. Okay, so I'm back, and so here I am in my chair, and I love having a chair that swivels because I can get in and out of the chair and get back to my machine without really changing too much of the position of the chair. It's just a small thing I like to do. So I've turned on my machine, and I've gotten a test piece of material to play with. Now my machine is in its start place, so I want to go ahead and go to sewing. That's going to move that out of the way. I stay out of the way of that while it's moving. And then I can just load up my machine. Now notice something here. I am going to position myself so that I'm directly in front of that needle. And in being in front of that needle, I can see the needle and 2 to 4 inches beyond it without craning my head or, just putting myself in an unnatural position. I'm ready to just go ahead and begin sewing. And the reason why it doesn't matter so much that my arms are not like perfectly parallel to the ground is because they're parallel here, And because the machine has such a good pull, all I have to do here is I'm guiding, and that's really all I'm doing. That's a good position. So everything around here, this is not, everything in this environment works for me and it's comfortable. And as I finish something, I can come back into that completely neutral position. I can readjust myself. The whole idea of having an ergonomic position is that not that you stay in that position like you're a mannequin or anything, but that you can be at task, at rest, at task, at rest. And there's very little strain going on it. If I were hunched over this machine to sew and then I wanted to rest, I have to pick myself back up. And I'm putting a lot of extra work on the core and extra work on the shoulders. Whereas if I'm just in a nice neutral position. So let me take you over to my cutie frame where I'm going to be standing while working. Okay, so here we are at my machine and I'm preparing to work, but I'm standing. And again, that same things, I have a neutral position. And the great thing about this is my neutral position, okay, a lot of people will tell you the belly bar should be at your belly button. Mine is 2 inches above my belly button because this way, my hands are parallel to the ground and can rest on the belly bar in my machine. I can reach up and grab my handles, which by the way, don't grip your handles in a death grip. That's also damaging to your wrists and to your shoulders. You want to just have a touch. And I can easily reach all the way across, and again, keeping my arms, they never raise more than shoulder length. And everything is pretty simple, right? And I think I've demonstrated this before, that your machine should be free enough that you can move it with just one finger. I often, when I'm using rulers, I have my ruler down on the ruler table and my hand flat on it, and I'm writing with my right hand. I can do the same with my left hand. It's all a matter of being comfortable. So then the next thing I wanted to bring into the mix is, what if you prefer to sit? And so you have a stool. I have a stool right here. I don't think you can see it in the framing, but the stool has a rest on it so that I can set my feet on the rest. So I'm resting my feet and I'm still at that nice neutral position. So the stool is high enough to still let me have that position. It's best if you have an adjustable stool if you're adjusting your table. But again, everything is right in reach. You'll often see me, I have things to the right side of me because those items are things that I can get to immediately. So let's just kind of recap that this machine is the most important machine I own. This machine right here, that is me. And so when I'm addressing, and by addressing I mean when I'm facing and using one of my machines, I need to have a neutral position that I can go back to. I don't have to stay in that position 100% of the time. You don't want to stay in any position 100% of the time. But this is my neutral position that as I finish a task, however long or short it is, that I can jump back to my neutral position and be comfortable. The neutral position is good posture, shoulders above your hips and hips and knees parallel to one another with your thighs parallel, and your calves able to either sit flat on the ground or flat on some sort of a riser, as in with this stool, I can sit flat on the step on the side of my stool, on the front of my stool. But I can come in and out of that neutral position to do things that I need to do. And the cool thing for me about the Cutie is I can set this stool here in the middle of my workspace, and I can actually just move my body around, not get up and have to move the stool. So 4 feet gives me plenty of room to give myself full purchase, if you will, on my entire frame by just twisting my body here in the seat. So I twist my buttocks in the seat to go in the direction I need. So I'm over here for a little bit, and as I move along and I find myself nearing to the center, I get to a point where I can pause my stitching and just readjust myself. And so I kind of divide my work area in thirds. And that works out very well for me. The way you address and use your machine is going to be personal to you. You just want to find something that lets you have a neutral, safe posture. That's going to give you a good ergonomical situation where you're not straining your shoulders, your wrists, your elbows, your back, your knees. You want everything to be comfortable and have that neutral position on the ready for you at all times. So that's the first of my triple T's, and hope to see you again here on Quilting on a Thread, and I'll share some more of my triple T's with you. Bye-bye now.